Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed your yoga break. I certainly did. I don't know how you feel, but definitely during lockdown, I think yoga and meditation and kind of looking more inward rather than outward has been really beneficial. So I am definitely relaxed. So yeah, we're really excited to move on to Mara. So we had our first installment of her story at the last event. So this is now part 2. And Mara's stories are brilliant for everyone of all ages. So my daughter particularly enjoyed the story as well. Mara is an award-winning performance storyteller and narrative artist, drawing on her rich dual Kenyan-Scottish cultural heritage to create worlds that explore contemporary issues through legend, myth, and fantasy. She fuses ancient and modern in an intoxicating experience where the audience takes center stage, leading to invitations to perform around the world. Mara's Fringe Festival show, Blood and Gold, was performed at the Edinburgh Storytelling Centre, and it received rave reviews. So hopefully you had an opportunity to see it then, and also hopefully when life resumes, we'll be able to see it live and direct. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Mara. And just to say, Mara, we have quite a lot of excited people to get the next installment of your story.
Oh, thanks, Jennifer. The pressure is on then. And actually, when I was doing a lot of the research for this particular story, it's not so much a continuation of the last one, because I felt that there were so many there were different issues that I could get onto, and I've actually used Ikel as my muse for this particular story. So if she is still here and still watching, then I hope that she does enjoy this story, or appreciate it at least. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, Mara, and you're also in Kenya, aren't you?
I am, yes, and it's a little bit windy. I have found like the least windy spot in an outdoor space where I do have consistent Wi-Fi. So I hope that the wind is not too problematic. If I move at about 2 meters in either direction, then it's going to be a battle. So I hope that this is all right for you.
Fabulous. Okay,
and if there are any issues, then just let me know, and I can fix it somehow, hopefully. Okay.
Fabulous.
Yeah. All right, great. So thank you very much for having me again, everyone. And it has been absolutely fascinating to listen to some of the talks that have happened and to the young people's panel. So really, really inspiring. And this story that I have created for you, it starts off with the story of a young girl. And this young girl lived in a place where the sand shimmered around her. And one day she found herself sitting on the banks of an enormous lake, so lake that she could hardly see to the other side. And the blue water sparkled in the sunlight. And as she was sitting there, she noticed a shape, a figure, a form just a few meters away from her. And this form was an old woman with a hunched back. And the girl had never seen her before. And so she headed over and she said, "Grandmother, who are you?" And the old woman appeared to be sobbing and weeping. And she turned to the girl and she said, "I am the spirit of the lake, and I am mourning the death and the misery that is coming this way." And the girl was confused because this lake was full of fish. It supplied her community with water. And she said, "What do you mean, grandmother?" And the old woman told her of a huge construction that was coming their way. And the water in the lake would drop many, many feet. And that would lead to the loss of the fish supplies and the water that the community would have to drink. And the girl, well, she was astonished. She had never heard of this before. And she said, "Grandmother, are you sure you're right?" And the old woman nodded and said, "I am never wrong. I am old. I have been here for thousands and thousands of years. I am not wrong. Something has to be done." But the girl said, "Well, I can't do anything. I mean, I'm just a kid, and I'm just a girl. Nobody is ever going to listen to me. There's nothing that I can do." And she began to feel quite small and powerless, especially after she had heard the words that the old woman had told her. But just then, the old woman reached into her robes and she pulled out a little black stone and she handed it over to the girl. And she said, "This stone is no ordinary stone. If you feel small and you feel helpless, this stone will take you anywhere that you wish to go. And the girl thought that would be good, because if I am small and helpless and misery and terrible things are coming here, then maybe there is somewhere else in the world that I could belong. And so she thanked the old woman, and the old woman slipped into the water and she disappeared. The girl took the stone and she started to rub it, and she thought, I want to go to a place where the government has built something good for the people. And she suddenly found herself standing on a bridge. Beneath her feet were the blue waters of the Indian Ocean, and she looked around and she could hear the muezzins calling in the distance, and she saw the island of Mombasa. And in the distance, she saw the ferries, and the ferries were carrying people from one shore to the other, back and forth, carrying the vehicles and the drivers inside. And she looked at the bridge that she was on, and she saw that there were people walking back and forth along this bridge. And she thought, wow, the government must really care about these people, the safety of them, so that there is no harm from the vehicles. They built this bridge. But just then, she heard a great blast, and suddenly the bridge began to move. It parted wider and wider to allow for an enormous ship, bigger than she had ever imagined before, to pass through the harbor. And as she waited alongside the other people for the bridge to come together again and they could continue their journeys, that is when she heard the rumblings. This government, what a waste of money building this bridge. They didn't even consult the people. The bridge is far too far away from anywhere. We have to now spend money to get the piki-pikis, the boda-boda, the motorbike taxis on the other side. It's too hot. There's no shade. We are burning from the sun. And what's going to happen in the rainy season? We are going to be soaked wet. We would rather use the ferries. And she asked them, well, surely they must have spoken to the people. And they said, they would never, ever consult the people. And the girl thought, ooh, this is not the place for me. This sounds just like the kind of place that I have left. I want to go somewhere else. Where can I go? I want to go somewhere where the people have faith in the leaders. And she took out that stone and she rubbed it, and she found herself in another place, a little village. And as she looked around, she saw little train tracks, railings, carts, strange looking vehicles. And she saw a group of young people, and she approached them and said, tell me about this place. And they said, this used to be a coal mining town. And look around, the shops are closed. Everything is abandoned. There's really nothing much going on here. And she said, but I wanted a place where people have faith in the leaders. And just then she heard a beautiful choir singing in the distance. And the young people said, those are our parents and our grandparents. They have a rich cultural connection to this place. They have a heritage that they are proud of. And now they have flooded one of the mines and they have turned it into geothermal energy, which has created jobs and opportunities for them. But for us, there is no hope. And therefore we have to leave this place. And the girl thought, ooh, that does not sound too good. When more than half the community feel the need to leave, no. I need somewhere different. What do you not like most about this town? She asked. And they said, no job opportunities, nothing to do, and this place is ugly. Look at it. There is nothing that speaks to us, nothing that tells us of this place, nothing that attracts us here. And she took out the stone and she said, I want to go somewhere that was once ugly and is now beautiful. And she found herself in the middle of a forest, enormous trees reaching up into the sky, a beautiful stone walkway. She could hear the birds and the cicadas in the trees. And as she walked along, she saw a beautiful lake with a hippo and crocodiles, antelopes on the other side drinking for cool, fresh water. And she saw somebody and she said, what heaven is this? And the person who spoke to her said, do you know that 30 years ago, this was a quarry for a huge cement company? And they decided that they needed to turn it into something beautiful, a new ecosystem, the restoration of a natural place. And so they created this park. The girl couldn't believe it. She said, yes, now this is what I'm talking about. This place is beautiful. And once it was so ugly. But as she looked around, she noticed that everybody who was passing by spoke multiple languages. There was nothing unifying about the people around her. And she said, "Who are these people?" And the woman said, "Ah, these are the tourists who have paid money to come and enter this park." And she said, "Tourists? But what about the people who live here? The people who once inhabited this place? Where are they?" They don't really come anymore. No, this place is not for them." And the girl thought, "Oh, then maybe this place is not for me either. I want a community that is involved in something." And so she rubbed that stone and she found herself in a little village. And this village was spick and span, orderly, clean. And she saw the people, the community of this village were busy pulling great big containers. And each container had been labeled. Some were glass, plastic, cardboard, food waste, batteries, clothing, all kinds of labels. And she said, "What is going on here?" And the inhabitants were very proud. "We are the recycling village of the world. We have won awards for this." And the girl thought, "Wow, this is amazing. Everybody coming together for the benefit of the whole community." And she said, "Where do these things go?" And they explained, they said some of these things are recycled and other things, they get sent somewhere, but we're not really sure where. We hear that the clothes maybe go to help developing countries, and the other things, well, we're not too sure. And the girl thought, so that is where the clothes come from. And that is what has killed all of these textile industries in my own country. That is what is happening here. I wonder if these people even know where their goods finally end up. And she asked, and of course, nobody had any idea. And she said, "Oh, so the people are doing great things and they believe in what they're doing, but still there is not enough knowledge and information. I want to be in a place where everybody is aware of what's going on and are trying to do something about it." She rubbed that stone and she found herself in a town. Great buildings around her, a built up, buzzing, thriving place, lots of noise, lots of talking, people, little communities and groups gathered here, there, and everywhere. There was a life about this place. There were delicious smells of street food being cooked left, right, and center. She felt good. And as she looked around, she saw that some of the older buildings were being renewed and done up. And she thought, "Oh, so things are really happening here, huh?" And she asked around and they said, "Why are you here? We don't know you." And the girl was astonished at the hostile approach to her. And she said, "Well, I'm just here to look around." "Oh, look around or buy some of these properties that you see, huh?" And the girl was confused until finally they explained. And they said they're redoing all of these buildings and then they'll sell them at a price that nobody else. We are the ones who get shoved out and we have to go and create new homes somewhere else. No, not on our watch. We know what is happening. We are going to fight it. We are trying to get ownership of this place. We are the community are coming together. We're fighting for our rights. And the girl was impressed by this talk and she said, "Yes, and are people listening? Are the leaders listening?" And she said, "Well, if we keep persisting, if we keep trying, then maybe something will change." And the girl thought, but this is a battle that I'm not sure I want to get involved in. Out came the stone. And the girl said, "Oh, where do I want to go? I want to go to a place where there is some political will." She found herself on an island, surrounded by a cold, icy sea, but in the distance, she could just make out enormous blades whirling round and round and round. And she thought, "Oh, I know these. That's a wind farm out to shore. My goodness, the people who live on this island are going to benefit from the political will that has brought energy to them." But of course, once she started speaking to the community, she realized that things were not as they seemed. They were taking all that energy, sending it to the mainland, and then bringing it back and selling it to the community at a high rate, a price that people were not happy about paying. And she said, "What? Surely there must be a place where people are independent, just doing things for themselves, by themselves." And out came the stone, she rubbed it, and pa! She found herself in a rural community. Everybody was a farmer, and everybody was growing their own crops. And she thought, yes, finally, these people don't have to rely on anybody else. Until she discovered that they were affected by the actions of everybody. They suffered from droughts, they suffered from floods, they suffered from erratic rainfall. And when the rains didn't come, they had to rely on other things in order to sustain themselves. And she thought, oh, surely there must be a place where something good is happening. And it was then that she remembered all the stories that she had been told by her mother, by her father, by her grandparents, by the whole community where she lived. And she realized that that is where she belonged, and that is where she needed to be. And one of the things that she remembered from her grandmother is that a mosquito can often be more powerful than an elephant. And so she rubbed that stone and asked to go home. And when she arrived, she forgot all this nonsense that she was just a girl or she was just a child. She started to inform everybody of the plan of the great construction. And when they heard about it, they started to galvanize together. And with their voices united, they sent word out to the government. And they started to complain and make their voices heard. And of course, they had no choice but to listen, because it wasn't just one voice. It wasn't just two. It wasn't just 100. It was the voices of many, many people, but sounding as one. And what happened next? Well, that is a story that is still continuing to this day. So let us see how it all plays out in the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years. And that is my story for you today.